So in this video I want to talk about the takeaway. The takeaway is a really important part of the golf swing in terms of just to ensure that you're not making real faults and basic faults. Now when we're talking about the takeaway, we're talking about by the time the club shaft is parallel towards the floor. And I'm not too concerned whether the club head is slightly behind your hands or it's slightly more in front, or whether your arms are slightly further away or they're a little bit closer. I'm not pedantic about that in particular. But the big mistakes that you want to avoid are twofold. One, the hands getting too close to the body, and two, turning the pelvis too excessively in that early backswing position. Because if you make both of those mistakes, you are fundamentally going to set yourself up for failure, or set yourself up for some sort of huge compensation coming in towards the downswing. So on my website, where you can become a member if you're interested, and there's details of that in the description box below, I talk about fundamentals, and my sort of fourth fundamental would be width, and the second fundamental would be swing plane. So what I basically preach to a lot of my members is, look, you need to understand swing plane and you need to understand width. Now, swing plane is this sort of line that we tend to draw through the shaft of the golf club and up through your elbow line, and the idea is the club head should travel through this line. You swing back, the club shaft would be parallel to it, comes back down and comes back through. If you have a decent sort of swing plane, you'll have a decent club path. However, the reason why width is also a fundamental is because you could have a good swing plane where the club looks like it goes up and down the line, but if you've got no width and your arms are too close to your body, you're forever going to be inconsistent because you can't stabilize that club face. And that's what I want to prioritize, the conversation of width. So what you're trying to do in that backswing position is you're always trying to feel like your hands are trying to maximize the distance they can be away from your sternum. Okay, so you want to almost feel like your right hand is applying a pressure to the club to keep your hands away from the sternum. And what you'll find is if you do that, so this type of motion here, can you see the way that if my arms are bent, I'm going to have more of a tendency of dragging the club on the inside. If I keep my arms much straighter, you're going to find it theoretically impossible to not allow the club to go perfectly back along the plane line. So that's what I would try and prioritize when it comes to that early move. Now, what's not a must, but it's worth knowing, is how to pivot. And what you're looking for in that takeaway is to allow the pelvis to move subtly towards your trail side in more like a swaying / linear fashion. I'm not too stressed. With some of my students, I'll work on that. It depends on the level of their golf and their skill. But what I would say is what you can't afford to do is trigger too much rotation too soon. Because if you start turning that pelvis over the leg, you're going to drag that club under plane. As long as you kind of just think about your hands and arms, you'll be okay. Or it's also acceptable to allow the lower body to move as well, because again, this will just help that sequencing out. So this was just a quick video reference to the takeaway, because the amount of times I walk up and down the range there and questions about takeaway, and I've got somebody with a club on the floor and they're rehearsing this type of position, I personally don't think that will work. I think what you need to do is, if you struggle in your takeaway position, there's two reasons for that. The first one is a lack of width. So that basically means the hands are too close to the body instead of pushing the club away. And the second one is it's going to be your pivot action. So if you're somebody who sort of pivots this way, then again, you're going to struggle forever in that takeaway move. So I'm hoping this short video will just help you out, get you thinking a little bit more about what you're trying to do in that early backswing. I'll see you soon.